Good Monday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across Albemarle County, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. We're presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary, a dispensary of local, talented, and well-knowledged proportions. One location in the downtown mall, Skooma Boutique Dispensary, next to Rapture Restaurant, and a new location, a second, about to open on Wednesday, April 20th, 420, on Elliewood Avenue, Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Let's let the viewers and listeners know how they can win free coffee for a year. If we can put the URL on screen, Judah Wickower, our director, enter.greenberries.com. That's the URL. Put it in your browser, enter.greenberries.com, for a chance to win Greenberries coffee on the house for an entire year, courtesy of Sean and Roxanne Simmons. Greenberries, the longest running coffee roaster in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. A lot we're going to cover on today's program. Friends of CVille, the nonprofit focused on improving the downtown mall in the city of Charlottesville, has hired an executive director. Friends of CVille, further reinforcing its effort and push to revitalize the downtown mall, the heartbeat of Charlottesville, with a new executive director. We will let you know who that is, and we will analyze the hire from every angle today on the show. We will also highlight Fellini's restaurant, a restaurant that is institutional and legendary in Charlottesville restaurant circles, still for rent. It's been years now that Fellini's restaurant has been vacant. I'd say a couple years. The pandemic, not kind to Fellini's, one of the first to close. Wild Wing Cafe, another one. Downtown Grill, another one. During the pandemic, still to this day, Fellini's does not have a tenant and still has the Italian restaurant branding on the outside of its location right off the downtown mall. We will discuss why Fellini's continues to be unoccupied today on the show. And for restaurant lovers, for foodie lovers like Scott Aaronworth, we'll talk Brazos Tacos and Ralph Sampson Tap House. These two restaurants we've identified as perhaps the highest paying rents for restaurants in the city of Charlottesville. Brazos and Ralph's, we will highlight these two restaurants from a pros and cons, from a survival and what they can do to the federal realty managed and owned Barracks Road Shopping Center. Which one has the brightest future? Which one has the most precarious future? Which one will drive more traffic to the tenants in Barracks Road Shopping Center? Which one will have the best profit margin? Those topics today on the I Love CVille Show. We will also discuss escalating rents around the city of Charlottesville. Judah Wickower, our director, do you have the two-shot ready to go? Give me a thumbs up if you do. He will take one side of the argument. I will take the other, of rents escalating in the city of Charlottesville and around Albemarle County and what to do about it. We encourage everyone to follow our Instagram page. It's the third largest Instagram in Central Virginia. It's I Love CVille on Instagram, where you will find news associated with politics and business and real estate and the economy and businesses doing positive things in the community and restaurants. It's diverse. It's well populated with content. I Love CVille on Instagram. Judah, if we can go to the two-shot so your friends and your family can see your smiling face, your handsome mug. There he is on screen. Let's give him a little bit of tease here. Carol Thorpe, the Queen of Jack Jewett, welcome to the program. Wild Bill McKenzie watching the show. I see 3 states, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia on our heat map. Short Pump, Richmond, Northern Virginia, Southwestern Virginia, our friends in the Danville area, Williamsburg and Newport News, welcome to the show. Same with Crozet in downtown Charlottesville. Judah, let's give them a tease. Something that has concerned you a little bit is the quick escalation of rents residential around Charlottesville and Albemarle County.
It's not so much the escalation that I think concerns me. I think it's more the disconnect. I hear a lot of talk about affordable housing, and then I hear talk about how rents are rising just as fast as house prices. And I wonder if our viewers could chime in and explain how they see things. Is there a disconnect for you? Is there, at some point, does it stop being someone else's problem and starts being our problem? I mean, I'm not personally a property owner who rents to anyone, but for those of you who do, as long as you've got your, as long as you've got your bases covered, are you continuing to raise your rates? Is there a disconnect between wanting affordable housing in our area and either being a part of that solution or ignoring it?
Great. We'll cover that today in the program. Our friends on LinkedIn, welcome to the show. And if you have comments, please put them in the feed. Lee Elberson, hello. He says, will we see I Love CVille represented at TomTom? And Lee Elberson, the CEO of Claiborne Education. Anyone who wants to support local business should attend the crowd-funded pitch night Thursday night at 6 p.m. at TomTom. Lee Elberson, we love you, my friend. We saw you from afar at the farmers market on Saturday at Ix Park with your beautiful bride. You are looking quite dapper, Lee Elberson. Please join us in on this discussion about escalating rents in the city of Charlottesville, live on all social platforms. Let's go to the lead topic of the show, and it's Friends of CVille, Judah, and we'll keep it on a 1, and then I'll give you a tap on the shoulder to go to the 2 if you could, sir. Friends of CVille has hired an executive director. And if you're not familiar yet with Friends of CVille, I encourage everyone watching the show to go to this URL, friendsofcville.org, friendsofcville.org. And here's a bit of branding advice to the Friends of CVille nonprofit. You currently do not have an SSL certificate on your website. So when folks go to friendsofcville.org, they see in their browser that the URL is not secured, which gives some folks the heebie-jeebies, Judah. So we encourage Friends of CVille to pay a nominal fee to whoever their hosting provider is. It's usually, the SSL is like $80 a year, and get a lockbox on the URL so it looks secured. Anywho, that's just branding advice from the owner of an advertising agency. Here's the news. Friends of CVille, the nonprofit focused on revitalizing Charlottesville, has announced the hiring of an executive director. Her name is Greer Kelly. According to a press release, Greer Kelly will be in charge of directing strategy, operations, and fundraising for Friends of CVille. Greer Kelly has experience in government, higher education, nonprofits, fundraising, and has served as the assistant director of development at the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy, and the ops director for the Center for Effective Lawmaking. I'm going to go to LinkedIn now. In fact, I'm calling it up on my Mac in front of me for those that are not watching the visual portion of the show. I'm typing in Greer Kelly on search, and Greer, I'm going to your Facebook profile. I see we're connected. I believe we have here at I Love CVille in my personal profile the most amount of LinkedIn connections in Central Virginia, which we utilize quite often. Her experience consists of 6 years at UVA, almost 3 years working at the state of Tennessee as a graduate assistant at the state of Tennessee, and then post-graduate assistant as the performance management coordinator. Her education, a master's of education from Vanderbilt, an undergraduate degree from Virginia Tech, Greer Kelly. So Friends of CVille, again, friendsofcville.org, is showcasing its commitment to this movement, this nonprofit of revitalizing downtown Main Street by hiring an executive director that's educated, qualified, and well-credentialed. This hire does not come at a nominal price point. I would imagine she's paid, I wouldn't want to guess, but nominal, not nominal, I should say, a good chunk of money. So the organization is showcasing it's focused on bettering Main Street. It's backed by heavy hitters We've talked about this often on the show. Ludwig Kutner, one of the heavy hitters behind it, Charlie Lewis, Hunter Craig. The executive committee now includes Ted Ukrop of the Ukrop grocery fame. Ted Ukrop, the owner of the Cork Hotel. There's two, one in Richmond, one in Charlottesville. Ludwig Kutner, Blair Williamson, Joan Fenton, who is arguably, from a female standpoint, probably one of the most influential property owners in downtown Charlottesville, Joan Fenton. Chris Henry, friend of the program. Keith Woodard. I mean, you got heavy hitters here. Ted Ukrop is big time, deep pocketed. Hunter Craig, big time. Hunter Craig owns the Bank of America building where Prime 109 used to be. Hunter Craig is developing the property across the Boar's Head Resort that is going to be home to the many of the tenants who are being displaced from the Foods of All Nations shopping center. UVA has purchased that property. We were the first to let you know that. Many of those tenants will follow Hunter Craig to his development across from Boar's Head Resort. So when you have a Charlie Lewis on the executive committee, the board of directors of Friends of CVille, a Hunter Craig, a Ted Ukrop, a Ludwig Kutner, a Chris Henry, a Keith Woodard, a Joan Fenton, you know the organization is well funded. Now they've hired an executive director, and her goal is to grow the brand, gain traction with the nonprofit, and see if the nonprofit can have truly positive impacts on the downtown community, even more positive impacts besides wrapping a derelict hotel with art like they first did. We indicated to you that was an olive branch peace offering or a show of good faith that we're focused, Friends of CVille, on doing good things on this community. What I would like to see is Friends of CVille get behind our designated outdoor refreshment area concept. I would like to see Friends of CVille do an even better commitment to branding and marketing collateral for downtown Charlottesville, an even better commitment to holiday or seasonal collateral like lights during Christmas. Friends of CVille is the new Downtown Business Owners Association. The DBAC is no more. Friends of CVille is today. So I find this news positive as a downtown property owner and as an owner of 3 businesses operating downtown, that a nonprofit has hired an executive director that's well-credentialed, paying her good money and committing itself long-term to this business, to this nonprofit. I would think if this is led or done correctly, Friends of CVille will be the DBAC on steroids. We've discussed with Sean Tubbs and Neil Williamson on this network whether Friends of CVille is going to try to make a push into a business improvement district, a BID, a BID. A BID is a district where the owners of real estate in that district and the businesses in that district pay an additional tax for the betterment of that district. Sean Tubbs and Neil Williamson have identified or indicated on this show that they do not believe a BID, a business improvement district, is in the future or in the cards for Friends of CVille and downtown Charlottesville. Still, I expect Friends of CVille to create a movement or momentum that is more positively impactful in downtown Charlottesville than DBAC ever was or ever could gain traction for. The executive director, we will reach out to her to see if we can get her on the program. Let's welcome to downtown Charlottesville, Greer Kelly, the new ED of Friends of CVille. Next topic on the show is something I want to get you involved in, Judah. Fellini's restaurant, still for rent. 3,195 square feet of retail space. 1 block off the historic downtown mall, on the corner of 2nd Street and Market Street. A turnkey restaurant with fixtures, furniture, and equipment included. COVID-19 rent considerations are being offered in the first year of the lease. You got a restaurant that has proven that it can work half a block off the downtown mall. Call it a block. I'd say it's less than a block. I'd say it's half a block. So the question I ask everyone watching the program, why is a Charlottesville icon and Fellini's restaurant yet to find a new tenant? Why is a Charlottesville icon and Fellini's restaurant currently not inhabited by an entrepreneur and a restaurateur pursuing his or her dream of F&B in this community? Judah, get that two-shot queued up. We've done significant work for previous owners of Fellini's, Jackie Dunkel. We've done work for Chris Humphreys, the last owner of Fellini's. You and I have enjoyed meals there. We've had photography sessions there. I've patronized the business for trivia, for open mic night, for date night with my wife. We helped Jackie Dunkel develop the campaign for the speakeasy upstairs. You and I both understand that the marketplace for restaurants is saturated and competitive. And we know that Fellini's was one of the first to fall during the pandemic. Downtown Grill, Wild Wing Cafe, other notable brands in the restaurant space that closed up shop very early on during COVID. What is your take on this? Why is Fellini's still for rent? Why hasn't a restaurateur pursued this concept? Aaron King, Queen of Scottsville, Western Almost Finest alum, welcome to the program. Aaron, why is Fellini's still vacant? What are your thoughts, Judah Whitcower?
I mean, without more details, I obviously don't have an answer, but it could be any number of things. I mean, it could be the space is just not what...
I just gave you the details. What more details do we need here?
You could give me the detail of how much the rent they're asking.
I can give you that.
That could have some...
3,195 square feet. Price per square is negotiable. It's going to be roughly 18 asking initially.
Is that a good competitive price for...
Very competitive. It's been vacant for a couple years, so the negotiable rent is a landlord looking to fill the space. So we have a landlord in a space that's negotiable with a landlord looking to get a tenant in place. So it's a very competitive price point.
It could be just nobody's found a good use for the space. It could be that someone looking to start a restaurant, that's not the space they're looking for. It could just be the wrong time. I mean, it could be that people have started their restaurants in other places, and this isn't what they're looking for.
The tough part about this business, this location, I should say, is while it's downtown, it's not on Main Street. And if you look historically, the businesses off downtown mall proper, they've struggled for tenure and traction. Let's take the old Cafe Bocce space, the old Tin Whistle space, now Tonic. I love what the owners of Tonic, who also own Tillman's, have done to the space. They've revitalized it completely. I hope, I pray, and I cross my fingers for them that they will have traction and tenure at that location because they're tremendous restaurateurs. We know that space has had a lot of turnover where Tonic is now. We know Fellini's has had a lot of turnover. If you look historically, there's only one, maybe two restaurants off the downtown mall, Market Street and Water Street, that have had long-term tenure and traction. Maybe three. I'll give you three. I would say C&O, the icon, that's got the longest tenure of any restaurant in downtown Charlottesville. C&O is number one. Dean Maupin is amazing. Took over for Dave Simpson. That brand crushes it. Bang Tapas just celebrated 20 years of restaurant livelihood. 20 years in the restaurant space is like a century in human years, okay? If it's 1 year, 7 dog years is 1 year of human years, restaurant, 20 years of livelihood is like 100 in human years. South Street I'll include in the mix, South Street Brewery. And the Melting Pot I will include in the mix as well. Which restaurants am I missing on the side streets that have had longer, more established tenure and traction?
On the side streets?
C&O, Bang Tapas, South Street. I'll include Derek Bond and the Melting Pot, who've done a good job of surviving and getting tenure and traction. Derek's a hell of a restaurateur and proprietor. I think you got to include Monsoon. Monsoon's been around some time.
Monsoon has stood the test of time.
The side restaurants on Market and Water, a lot of turnover. You saw turnover with the restaurants in York Place. We saw turnover with Moto Loco.
Tempo.
We saw turnover with Tempo. Right? That's a good one, Tempo. Great one there. Saw turnover with Iron Popples is for sale right now. We saw turnover with Escalating, although that was more due perhaps toward construction. We've seen some turnover with the Salad Maker, now the Soul Food Joint.
There was the, what the heck was it? It was a deli for a while. It was a
Where? On the side street over there by Bill Nitchman's building?
No.
The Thai place right across from where Passiflora's side entrance has had some turnover there.
A little bit.
The tourists and the flow of customers often do not splinter off the mall to the side streets. I think that could be one of the impacts affecting traction for these restaurants. Erin King says this, and Erin King is a damn good restaurant businesswoman. She says, in my opinion, Fleury needs a major rebranding, renovation, overhaul. It's essentially been the same restaurant since I was a child. It needs a whole makeover to get that old mojo going. Erin, what would you put there? Great take, Erin King. Erin, I'm going to give you props right here. What would you put in that space, EK? What business would be best situated? I mean, it's got to be a restaurant because how it's laid out. What model would be better suited there? Great take, exclamation point. Scott Aaronworth sends me a text message. Alley Light has had success. That's a Wilson Ritchie brand. Alley Light has had success. That's a good one, Scott Aaronworth. Alley Light, how long do we think Alley Light has been there? Ooh, Jim Hingley said Alley Light as well. We love you, Jim Hingley. I'm giving you some props. Great call. Exclamation point. Jim, we would love to get you back on the show, sir. Tremendous respect for you. And we would talk all things Albemarle and Charlottesville anytime you want, Jim. Alley Light is a great one. George Gilmer says, what's the name of the restaurant, wine shop, and the parking garage? That's Tastings. The owner of Tastings also owns Court Square Tavern. I respect Tastings and Court Square Tavern. I would say that Tastings and Court Square Tavern have need a little bit of TLC and revitalization as well. I respect their survival. It's a Darwinistic world out there with restaurants. But I don't see the population of customers at Tastings and Court Square Tavern like we once did. Jason Burke, Monsoon is a good one. Monsoon is a good one. So here's my take. The side restaurants, the restaurants off the downtown mall, have to be like on their A++ game all the time. They either have to be on their A++ game all the time, or they have to own the real estate that they're working in to give themselves an edge. You don't have the flow of traffic off the mall. Folks want to stay where the activity is. Activity breeds activity. You look at a side street restaurant like C&O, and anytime you go into C&O, every time you go into C&O, it's consistent and quality fare, service, and ambiance. You know what you're going to get, what you're going to expect. I also think that Aaron King makes a really good point, that whoever takes over the Fellini spot is left with this predicament. Do I keep this location, the iconic brand that is Fellini's, or do I risk rebranding and changing the concept at the risk of polarizing or alienating long-term locals and foodies? Is the expectation for the marketplace that this will forever be Fellini's? And if you rebrand and change the concept of this location, will you piss people off because you're doing it, and as a result, they won't patronize your business?
I think that's probably the answer to your question.
Follow up with that. Are we on a two-shot?
Yeah.
Give me your take on that. Please, sir.
Well, if you're asking that question, I'm sure everybody else that has thought about using that space has asked it as well. And do they want to keep it as Fellini's, or do they want to change it? And if they want to change it, do they want to risk, like you said, pissing off everybody that's got a strong memory of that place? And why take on that kind of uncertainty? You might as well just start new somewhere else if you're not planning on keeping it as Fellini's.
So we're in the branding and advertising space, right? If I'm considering, and I'm not in the restaurant space, we service the businesses by helping them drive brand awareness, new customers, and incremental revenue. That's one of the businesses and services we provide. If I'm advising or providing counsel to a group of a restaurant group that's taken over the Fellini spot, I would 100% advise them to change the brand. I 1,000% agree with Aaron King. The concept of Fellini's, and this might be blasphemous to say, has run its course and is perhaps stale.
I think it would need someone who believed in the vision to revive it as Fellini's.
Yeah, but you wouldn't advise the restaurateur or the restaurant group taking over that lease to keep it as Fellini's, would you?
Not unless they had a passion for it. Like you said, I think it's past its time, unless somebody really has a heart for what that was. Otherwise, yeah, change it. It's not worth it if you don't believe in it.
I've said this so many times on the show. I think a sports bar concept in the Fellini space would kill it. And why I think what I've said on the show is that Charlottesville City is missing a true and proper sports bar. What are the true and proper sports bars in Charlottesville City? Legit sports bar. BW3's is in Albemarle County, Buffalo Wild Wings. Ralph Sampson's, while it has TVs, I wouldn't quantify it as a sports bar. Citizen Burger Bar, while it's a phenomenal environment to watch sports, I would not qualify that as a sports bar. A sports fan will walk out of his or her way to find a bar that caters to their team or their game of choice. Fellini's, whoever takes that spot over, has got to make it a destinational model. And not just a model in passing that picks up business on Thursday, Fridays, or Saturdays on the downtown mall because other restaurants are on a wait. Jack Brown's, I love the Jack Brown's concept. I love everything about the Jack Brown's business model. Small, hole-in-the-wall locations, which means rental overhead is minimized. They don't have food that goes to waste like lettuce and tomato. You get lettuce and tomato at Jack Brown's Burger? No, you can't. They're not going to waste lettuce and tomato. Paper plates that they can throw away. The model is genius. Low rent, just off the beaten path to capitalize on Citizen Burger Bar's long wait on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. No waste with food. Lettuce and tomato doesn't rot because they don't have it. One back of the house person and one front of the house person can run the business. They don't need a dishwasher per se because it's paper plates they throw away. 6 or 7 items on the menu that are quick, easy to turn around and make and get in front of customers. It's freaking brilliant. Jack Brown's launches at a time when Citizen Burger Bar was on a 60-minute to 90-minute wait. The strategy, we're going to capitalize on Citizen's long wait list, and we're going to get those customers to come over. It's brilliant, brilliant strategy. A sports bar concept would get people off the downtown mall and walking down, what street is that? Is that 3rd Street? That's 2nd Street. People would walk off the downtown mall and walk down 2nd Street to Fellini's for a sports bar. They could have TVs on that speakeasy 2nd floor. They could have TVs on the nice brick walls all over the restaurant, TVs all over the bar, and they can crush it as a sports bar. Johnny Ornalis, owner of Guadalajara and El Mariachi, says, I would not keep the brand. I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. Period. Enter. Publish. Sent you that response. Love you, J.O. Erin King. Erin King is bona fide, dude. She works at Feast now. She helped make Commonwealth Sky Bar spectacular. She says, I think Fellini's needs to be something lively with a good nightlife scene, with a younger vibe, something to compete and or enhance, mimic the vibe the Common House has. Fellini's has always had an older crowd. Erin King, you're making the show better today, EK. Queen of Scottsville right there, Erin King. Giving you props right here, EK. Amen. Enter, publish. Danny O'Day on LinkedIn says this. Would the Common House folks be interested in making a move and expanding their campus? Or would that be an overextension? Danny O'Day, who's come on this program, dynamite guy on this program, said maybe Common House considers taking that space over and expanding their footprint for membership. Not a bad idea right there. Common House has got some ducats behind it. Derek Sieg, one of the owners of Common House, that dude's got some deep pockets right there. They could certainly take that on. I would go sports bar. I'd revitalize the concept. I would not do a Fellini's, and I would try to take it to a Monday, April 18th, 2022 level of itself, as opposed to being forced to run a business and a brand that has legacy or institutional meaning to the community. You're going to piss some people off initially rebranding it from Fellini's, but you're going to have to say, hey, we've had 3 different restaurant groups try to run Fellini's, and all 3 did not have success doing it. That's strategic and analytical thinking, and that's what you need to survive in a saturated market like restaurants. And speaking of restaurants, Brazos Tacos versus Ralph Sampson's Tap House, Judah Wickhauer, and Barracks Road. Which of those 2 restaurants, when Brazos is finished, is going to have the biggest impact on the Barracks Road Shopping Center and the city of Charlottesville food scene? I've been to Ralph's. The cheesesteak hoagie at Ralph's is dynamite. The beer selection at Ralph's is pretty damn good. The service at Ralph's is excellent. The TVs and ambiance at Ralph's is legit. You got a name brand and Ralph Sampson on the marquee of the restaurant. The price points are expensive. I'll cut to the chase. It ain't cheap. You have 2 or 3 beers and a cheesesteak hoagie, you're dropping $50 out of
That's
Tap
going to be
House.
its problem.
What?
That's going to be its problem. Who knows that name?
You don't know Ralph's?
No. And I'm sure a lot of other people don't either.
Well, I
And who
respect that
cares?
saying. You say who cares?
In the end, even if they do know the name, they may go there once in a while just to go there and enjoy their, whatever it is they've gotten there before. But for most of the other people, I think you're right. The price is going to be what they see?
I think a couple things. Devil's advocate, sake of a talk show. I think a lot of people know Ralph Sampson. He's the greatest basketball player in UVA history and one of the greatest college basketball players of all time. But I respect your take or your stance on that because you're not a diehard sports fan. So I respect your stance on that.
What does the greatest player of anything have to do with your food?
That's a fair comment. That's a legitimately fair comment. 100% fair comment right there. I think the price points are high because the rent is so high. They're having to charge so much for, it's $8, $8.50 beers. It's like $17 cheesesteak hoagies.
That's insane.
They're having to charge these price points because they opened a restaurant in the highest rent district in the city. So when your rent is so high and your labor is so high, your menu price points are reflective. That's why when it's all said and done, I think the price point or the model that has the most positive impact on Barracks and the most long-term potential is Brazos. Brazos is going to be, when it's all said and done, selling what? Tacos. Some burritos, some chips, salsa, or nachos, and some margaritas and some cold beers. Straightforward model.
Yeah.
The Ralph Sampson's menu is super deep with options. There's not a lot of cross-pollination or vertical integration with its cost of goods, with its food, its ingredients. The Brazos model is cross-pollinated and then some. The cheese, the ingredients in the tacos work in the burritos and can be utilized in the nachos. You got some beers and you got some margaritas. When you can cross-pollinate the menu like this, you can potentially pass some savings on to the tenant. And I would bet Brazos got a better lease, certainly lower overhead than Ralph's. Brazos has got lower square foot than Ralph's. Rents are priced by square feet. They're both island pads. I think Brazos is going to have more traction and tenure than Ralph's. I think the tenants in Barracks will benefit more from Brazos. Frankly, they'll probably benefit the most from Chick-fil-A. And I think the one that wins the battle between Ralph's and Brazos is Brazos. Carol Thorpe has this. Carol Thorpe, Jerry, is there still an African-American-based social club located next to or near Fellini's? If so, would a world-class soul food restaurant, which some in Seaville have long asked for, work there? Very good question. Carol Thorpe, the Queen of Jack Jewett, I will relay this live on air. I will say this. EK, are you still watching? Aaron King, you still watching? Sean Jenkins is the owner of Soul Food Joint on Market Street. Sean is legit. The Soul Food Joint you've had before. I've had before. That restaurant is bona fide. The food is priced well. He's open late night. Sean Jenkins and Soul Food Joint have great branding, great menu. It is fantastic food. Now, the Soul Food Joint may have a tough location, which I think is fair. It's in the old salad maker spot. It's right around the corner from Fleury. It gets back to that argument that I had, or that analysis that I offered about the side streets off the downtown mall having difficulty gaining traction and tenure. If the Soul Food Joint was on the downtown mall, it would be on a waiting list 3 nights a week. Because the Soul Food Joint is on Market Street and off the mall, it's impacting the marketplace's opportunity to patronize the brand and the menu. You've had it.
Yeah.
How would you characterize it?
He's an amazing cook. He does incredible fried chicken. He's got probably some of the best cornbread I've ever had.
Agree.
And everything else is just as good. But it's not it's not the high end that she's talking about.
That's fair. How would you characterize it? Approachable entry point?
Yeah, it's like barbecue diner, I think, style.
Entry point.
The casual casual eatery.
It's paper towel and not cloth napkin.
Yeah.
It's disposable utensils and not sterling silver.
Right.
But a soul food joint and sterling silver and white cloth napkin, white cloth, tabletop.
Doesn't mix.
I don't see those as complimentary.
I mean, Mickey Tavern does a fairly good
That's a good response.
mix of the two. It's not exactly. I mean, I think you've got. Last time I was there, you had like metal lunchroom trays, but you also had plates that you could put on them, and they do a good job of kind of making it casual while without giving up too much.
Yeah, approachable.
Yeah.
I agree with that. James Watson, King of Orbit. I love Judah, but Ralph is one of the greatest. Price point is high, but it won't stop the alumni crowd, pre-post football and basketball game crowd, baseball crowd, law school, Darden, and many of the Ivy and rugby corridor demographics from eating there. Brazos, Chick-fil-A, and Ralph's won't compete. They are all anchors. Barracks has needed these places for years. Good comment from King of Orbit, James Watson. I will say this, and I'm going to put this on record right now. Of the Island Pad restaurants, Island Pad, the restaurants that are standalone restaurants in Barracks Road, okay? Island Pad. I'm not including, what are some of the Island Pad? What are some of the restaurants that are in the strip at Barracks? Panera Bread, friend of the program, Kelly Jackson's family. They have a great location there.
Yeah, that's not
the
on
old
the
Terra
island.
Thai was there.
Yeah.
Okay, they're gone. They're going to the old Arches Frozen Yogurt on Emmett Street. Five Guys is not an Island Pad. They're in the strip. Okay. Of the Island Pad restaurants, what do you have there? You got McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle. You got Ralph Sampson's Tap House.
That morning place. That's
Brazos Tacos, Chopped Salad in the old Ruby Tuesdays location. Of the ones I mentioned, two are localized, Ralph's and Brazos. Brazos will have, I'm on record saying this, Monday, April 18th, Brazos will have longer tenure and traction than Ralph's. Agree or disagree on that?
You mean they're going to last longer than
Yes.
Ralph's? That's not what James Watson seemed to be saying.
Which one do you think will last longer, James Watson? King of Orbit. Ralph's or Brazos in the Barracks Road Shopping Center? Which one do you think will last longer, J-Dubs? Carol Thorpe, Mr. Jim Hingley, Scott Aaronworth. James Watson also finds it odd that we only have one sports bar in Charlottesville, and it's Buffalo Wild Wings. And interestingly, Buffalo Wild Wings is in Albemarle County and not the city of Charlottesville. In the city of Charlottesville, do we have a sports bar? Maybe you make an argument for Boylan Heights as a sports bar, but that's catering a demographic of students where the locals are not going to go to. In the city of Charlottesville, where is a sports bar that can cater to locals? You put a sports bar in the Fellini's location, it would stack paper. It would stack paper.
I mean, does
Scott Aaronworth thinks Ralph's will beat Brazos. Scott knows food like the Pope knows holy water. Scott's saying Ralph's. Wow. Why do you say that? Question mark. Enter, publish, sent to Scott. Finish your thought there, J-Dubs. Scott Aaronworth says, I think people will go to Brazos at Ix Park more so than Barracks Road. That's a legitimate comment. So, interestingly, Brazos has had a Barracks location soon to open, and their first location at Ix Park.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that they're too close together. From my standpoint, those locations are far enough apart that they will cater to different demographics. Your take, Judah Wickower, on that?
My take on Brazos and the other place, if Ralph Sampson gets as much student and alumni love as James Watson is suggestion, then maybe it'll kick everyone's expectations, destroy expectations, and kill it. My problem with Barracks has always been the same thing, in that at the wrong time, it's like
It's a zoo.
it's a trap in there. I went in there to grab some food one time and quickly realized my mistake, and ended up spending the next 10 minutes trying to get out of there.
It can
Now,
be a zoo.
most of the time that I go there nowadays, it's a lot better, but I do remember that it can be insane, and you can just get stuck in there and not be able to get out.
Yeah, it can be a zoo. It can be a zoo. No question about that. Aaron King says the Lazy Parrot is as close as it gets to a sports bar. We know the Lazy Parrot well.
The old Lazy Parrot, I don't know the new Lazy Parrot all that well.
New Lazy Parrot's legit. New Lazy Parrot
What
is
exactly
bigger than the
does
old
it
Lazy
take
Parrot.
to be a sports bar? Because there are places that, if you go to Burger Batch, if you go to, was it Matchsticks?
Matchbox.
I mean, they both have sports running on their screens pretty much every time I've been in there. I'm sure there are other places like that. I think it's just a matter of which places people decide to frequent the most.
Okay, so here's a good question then. We should ask ourselves, what characterizes a good sports bar?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Burger Batch or Matchbox are sports bars.
I'm not really saying they are, but I'm asking.
But you're saying they cater to the sports crowd, which is fair.
I'm asking what makes a perfect sports bar.
Here's
Does
what
it
I
have
think
to be a
makes a
certain
good
number of
sports bar.
screens? Does
Yeah,
it have
here's
to
what
be...
I think makes a good sports bar. Is audio for the game, the flagship game on TV, and the in-house speakers. That's paramount. TVs galore are paramount. The purchase of multiple sports networks and streaming platforms, the NFL package, the MLB package, the NHL package, the NBA package, the SEC network, the ACC network.
And now you know why no one started one.
Purchasing these packages is costly. Having dedicated TVs to certain teams, excuse me. There's a huge following of Buffalo Bills fans. The Buffalo Bills fans are watching football at the, I'm drawing a blank on it, Dardental map. I'm going to Google Maps on this. What is the restaurant next to Dardental Park? What is the restaurant next to Dardental Park? Somebody help me with this. It's right on that 250 there. My wife, if you're watching, you know the name of this restaurant. What is the restaurant next to Dardental Park, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners of the show? That is home for the Buffalo Bills backers. Man, I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on this. See if you can figure that out, Judah. Right next to, please, sir, right next to Dardental Park. Aaron King, what is the name of that restaurant? Next to Dardental Park. Scott Aaronworth, do you know? River Birch. Thank you. Who just put that in the feed? Someone just got that right. Lisa Lambrinios, did you get that right for me? Who got that right for me? I got to give that person props. River Birch is the restaurant. River Birch is next to Dardental Park and legitimately is home to the Buffalo Bills backers on 16 games of season plus the playoffs. So if the Bills make the postseason, you're talking 16, 17, 18 games a year. a couple hundred Buffalo Bills fans flood River Birch to watch the Bills play. Litza Lambrinios, watching the program, says this: tabletop volume control for different games like Damon's used to have eons ago is always a plus. That is a damn good comment from Litza Lambrinios. I used to go to Damon's all the time. Damon's is in the hotel on Route 29. Used to be in the hotel on Route 29. It was a fantastic sports bar. And when you sat at your respective booth or table, you could control the volume while eating your wings, your nachos, your burgers, and drinking cold beer. And you could take the speaker on the table and coordinate it with the TVs, many plethora of TVs all over Damon's, and watch the game. That's fantastic commentary from one of our viewers and listeners, Litza Lambrinios. I'm setting you a friend request, Litza, on Facebook because that was such a good comment. Please accept it. I would love to include you in the family. Carol Thorpe, Queen of Jack Jewett, a perfect sports bar has got to have plenty of seating and walking space with flow and good parking. Carol Thorpe, well said. Well said, Carol Thorpe. Draft Tap Room tried to be a sports bar on the downtown mall. That's another one that's a head scratcher. Draft Tap Room has not opened since it closed for the pandemic.
What is up with them?
And that's backed by heavy hitters. That's got heavy hitters back Draft Tap Room.
And that place was great. So many choices.
I thought it was great too.
Lots of screens.
TVs everywhere.
Yeah.
Food was so-so, although Craig Hartman was taking over the menu and making it better. Draft Tap Room was damn good. It has not opened since the pandemic. It had like 60 plus taps.
Yeah.
And it had different size cups.
Yeah. You could choose your different cups.
You get the taster cup to the big pint.
And you had cups that fit, the type of beer that you're drinking.
Right. And it was easy to purchase the beers. You would get the card.
You just put the card in the thing, pour your beer. I think they limited you. That was a little bit odd.
Why? Because they knew you were going to get hammered? You wouldn't get hammered.
Well, no, it was just weird. You'd have to go up and be like, hey, I'm not drunk yet. Can I get more beer? And they'd be like, yeah, here.
Well, you have a hell of a tolerance. You have a good tolerance.
I mean, I wasn't going there and drinking like 6 or 7 beers. It would be like 2 or 3 pours, and it's like you're cut off. I'm like, wait a minute, what? It's just strange. But
Lisa Lambrinios,
that aside, it was a great place.
Lisa also highlights Glory Days in the North area being a good sports bar. Charlottesville City is missing an A-plus sports bar. Now, here's the tough aspect of the sports bar. The sports bar by nature, because of its massive TVs and because of the fact that it gets flooded with customers on game days, has to be large in size. And large in size restaurants have extremely high rents. Wild Wing Cafe, fantastic sports bar at the Amtrak station. But you talk from a rent standpoint and a price per square feet, that spot was ginormous, so the rent wasn't cheap. And the other tough aspect of a sports bar, in the downtime when there are no sports, it gets no customers. So a sports bar is going to do great during the fall, college football and the National Football League. It's going to do great for college basketball when UVA is playing and there's a big-time ACC game. But after the Masters and March Madness, Charlottesville, Virginia is not much of a sports town. So when March Madness is over and when Jim Nantz puts the green jacket on the Masters champion at Augusta National, from Sunday evening when the Masters concludes until the last week of August, it's a pretty tough time to be a sports bar.
You just need a gimmick.
Well, Wild Wing Cafe tried. From the end of Masters until the start of training camp of college football, Wild Wing Cafe tried to be a nightclub on Friday nights with PJ Styles, the Hot 101.9 DJ, being the in-house DJ at Wild Wing Cafe. Wild Wing Cafe tried to be a nightclub. They tried to be karaoke. They tried to be trivia. They tried to have live bands. Wild Wing Cafe and Chad Ragland built a damn stage in Wild Wing Cafe on the main floor. They had outdoor seating. They had cornhole on the deck. They had cornhole tournaments. Wild Wing Cafe tried everything and their mother to survive, from the Sunday of the Masters until the last week of August when college football and the NFL started.
Maybe it was too many gimmicks.
He tried a wing bar at lunch. Chad tried everything. They tried everything. James, the king of orbit, if UVA basketball gets back on track, that will help Ralph Sampson's Tap House. They can host coaches' corners at Ralph's. Folks parking for home football game days, home away basketball days, alumni events can be marketed to and accommodated at Ralph's. James Watson, giving you some props here. Well said. Exclamation point. Well said. Good stuff from J-Dubs right there. All right, noodle on that and offer some perspective on the show, guys. Here's the last topic of the show. Carol Thorpe, I played in a free poker league in Wild Wing Cafe for years. Even Jesse Matthew played there. I saw, Carol Thorpe, great comment. I saw Jesse Matthew. Do we describe Jesse Matthew as a serial killer? You know, he was the one who was, kidnapping young girls and murdering them. Morgan Harrington. Would we say Jesse Matthew is a serial killer? I'd say serial killer, right? Carol, would you call him a serial killer, Carol Thorpe? I mean, are you Googling that?
Yeah.
Carol Thorpe, I trust your judgment. I'd say it's a serial killer, right?
Maybe in the making?
I mean, he killed... What makes a serial killer?
I mean, how many women did he kill?
I'd say Jesse Matthew was a serial killer.
Okay.
All right, we digress. I met Jesse Matthew at Wild Wing Cafe. She's exactly right. He patronized Wild Wing Cafe all the time. I met Jesse Matthew at Wild Wing Cafe and had multiple interactions with Jesse Matthew at Wild Wing Cafe. Multiple interactions. All right, last topic is one that you brought up for the show. So rents are escalating out of control in the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Rents are, we're talking residential here, right? You want to talk residential?
Yeah.
Residential rents are sky high. Folks are renting 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom places, and the monthly nut they're paying is higher and more expensive than what a mortgage would be on a $300,000 or $400,000 home. I'm going to say that again. You rent a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a den at the villas at Southern Ridge, and your rent is higher than the mortgage payment would be for a $300,000 to $400,000 home. Your take on this, I'll offer my take on the Monday edition of the I Love CVille Show. Judah Wickower, fire away.
My take, I mean, I don't know why people are charging that much. Is it because they can get it? I mean, that's a question for the people that are renting those places out. Is this all about just as much as you can get, and because the prices are going higher, you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to pin my brand to everybody else's and keep my price as high as theirs? Is that all it is? I mean, I really want to know, because it can't be just trying to keep up with property tax, because there's no way property tax has gone up so much that these much higher rates are just trying to encompass that. Is it? Am I wrong?
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I think it might be wrong. I think the city of Charlottesville, let's take city, and year over year, 1 year, real estate assessments went up 11.69%. You're taxed on your assessment. If you're a landlord and you own property that you rent, the bill you pay the city went up, call it 12% for the sake of a talk show. Your HOAs, if you have a condo that you're renting, Eagles Landing, Villas at Southern Ridge, Walker Square, those condos behind Hessian Hills, just to name a few. HOAs every year are increasing. Why are HOAs increasing?
Are they really increasing?
They're definitely increasing.
Okay, well, I've got an HOA, and it's gone up, in the last 3 years, it's gone up like maybe not that much. I mean, like $10-15.
So can I ask what your monthly HOA is?
It's bloody expensive. It's like $240 something.
Jeez, you pay $240 something a month?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But if there's a
Are
problem,
you getting a back massage every day from your HOA?
Of course I am.
$240 a month? Is that true?
They paint the places. They replace rooftops. They'll replace the decks and things like that. They do all the trash removal. They take care of the
That's
lawns.
a freaking.
I'm not saying it's.
That's like 20% of a mortgage payment.
Yeah, it's bloody expensive, but they do a lot.
15%.
And it's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that mine hasn't gone up that much.
Well, yours was always already one of the highest in the location.
It was already high.
Yeah.
But
that's obscene.
It's expensive.
Well, when assessments go up 12%, and when HOAs, maybe not yours, but when HOAs go up 5% year over year, assessments are up 12, HOAs are up 5.
But
Cities
how much are
raising,
the HOAs? $90?
It's still an increase.
It's $5.
It's still HOAs are $90. I don't know anybody who's got an HOA $90. I got a rental at the Villas Southern Ridge. That HOA is like $1.60. Okay, the Stone. Can I say your development?
5% is $8.
160. 16. It's $8.
That's what I just said.
That HOA has a pool though, a clubhouse with a gym,
what does that
game room.
What,
I don't know.
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
Here's what I'm comparing it to. It's a little bit of everything. It's getting burned by assessments going up. It's getting burned by handymen are charging more to turn over places. Painting, washer dryer repair, new carpet installation, doing the work around the units more expensive than it's ever been. Because these handymen can command whatever money that they want because they're in such demand right now. Okay? It's a flood of new people to the community. Much of that flood is associated with the University of Virginia. And I
can see handyman costs, but I'm not sure what a flood of people has to do with what you're charging for rent.
Yes, you do. Supply and demand. We have a fixed supply more people.
That was my initial question. Are you just following the trend and raising with everyone else? And that's what you're talking about with supply and demand, because there's no reason anybody has to raise their price just because somebody else is doing it. Just because there's supply and demand doesn't.
Well, the landlord is in the business of making money.
Okay, well that's part of the equation, and that's part of the question that I was asking.
Yeah, and
is it just about making money?
The landlord is making money.
And is there a disconnect between just trying to make money and professing to want affordable housing?
I've said it time and time again on this show. Affordable housing is 2 words utilized to win elections come politics time.
Fair enough,
It's
but there
farce.
are still a lot of people that talk about it.
Who talks about it?
There's this show on social media called Real Talk where I've heard
Housing affordability, you've heard.
That too.
He's now the language has now been pivoted to housing affordability and away from affordable housing.
Okay.
Affordable housing is unrealistic in this community. We have fixed supply and demand that's increasing every single day.
That still doesn't change anything about my question.
I've clearly answered it. Would you like to pose it a different way?
So you're saying it's all just based on as much money as you can get?
No. that's not what I said. I said 12% increases year over year.
And I get that. And I also think I said initially, once you've got your bases covered.
Judah, a landlord is not going to run a business by saying my monthly nut to own this place is $1,700 a month. I'm only going to take $1,701 a month. That's not how any landlord thinks, because that's piss poor business.
You know that's not what I'm asking.
Okay, well that's what you're saying, just covering your monthly basis. That's literally what you said.
No, I'm saying you have your bases covered, so now you've got a gap between, so how much is enough?
It's what the market deems or allows.
Okay.
Because when it's all said and done, the tenant determines the price. It's not the landlord that determines the price.
So you're saying if I can get more money from this guy than I can from that guy, I'll keep going higher?
Of course.
Okay.
That's basic economics. If a tenant does not like, if the entire marketplace of tenants does not like that rents are at this price,
they don't have to. No, I get that.
They don't have to rent it.
I get that.
They don't have to rent it.
I know.
The tenant can say no. The tenant can say no. It's the tenant that determines the price, not the landlord. The landlord does not determine the price.
Well, that's good to know.
Do you disagree?
Yeah.
How? How do you disagree?
I think you're passing the buck.
How am I passing the buck? The customer can say, I'm not going to spend $20 for a cheeseburger. And the customer can say, I'm not going to go to that business and support it by buying cheeseburgers. And that business is going to go out of business. The tenant can say, I'm not going to pay this landlord's rent, it's too expensive. And then that landlord will lose his property or drop the price. Is that not how it works?
That's part of how it works.
How is that not how the entire thing works?
You're basically saying that you have absolutely no agency in this, and it's all based on if someone will pay higher, I'll go higher. You're saying it has nothing to do with me. I don't decide. If I can find someone to pay higher than this guy, then I'll put the price higher. I find that disingenuous, because you can decide.
How is that disingenuous?
You act like you'll just put it as high. There's no other way to rent a place out than to charge as much as you can possibly charge. And that's not true.
So you're saying if you owned a property, how would you do it if you owned a property?
I'm not saying. I was asking questions, and you're responding.
I'm asking. If you owned a property, how would you rent it?
That's a hypothetical. I don't know.
This is a show of hypotheticals. We talk hypotheticals all the time. We just explain hypothetically why Fellini's would make a great sports bar. We just hypothetically had a comparison between Ralph's and Brazos. It's a show of hypotheticals. That's what talk shows are. If you hypothetically owned a piece of property that was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Okay, hypothetically, I would set a price that I was comfortable with, and that's what I would rent it for. I wouldn't look at other people. I wouldn't say, okay, I can make more off these chumps because that's what the market is providing. I would figure out what is a good price for me.
Okay, so would you have an escalator every year on your rent?
If I expected to need it, then yes, I probably would.
Okay, so every year your rent would increase, you're saying?
If I expected to need it?
Well, of course you would expect to need it. Every year your cost of goods goes up. You're paying more taxes. Your HOA's going up. You're going to need to paint the place every year. Your tenant's going to...
I don't know about that.
Okay, I'm telling you. I'm explaining to you. Telling is the wrong. Explaining to you. The dishwasher or the garbage disposal or the washer machine or the laundry or the dryer or the fridge are going to break. They're going to need to be repaired. There's going to be some kind of carpet damage of some kind. This is called wear and tear of a property. That happens every year, right?
Maybe.
You're telling me people can live in a property over the course of a calendar year and not wear and tear it?
I lived in where I live now for 10 or 11 years and probably had my rent go up twice.
Well, that's few and far between. And then you ended up buying the property from the owner.
Yeah.
That's few and far between, my friend.
I'm not saying it's not.
So it sounds like you're pro rent control.
I would not say that. I would say it's a personal. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm not saying that things have to be done a certain way. I'm asking a question of those of you out here out there that own properties that you rent out. Is it just a matter of a cash grab, getting as much? I know it's an investment. I'm not saying that you're in the wrong for doing it the way you do it. I'm just asking, is it all about getting as much money as you can possibly get out of it?
I think when it comes down to it, the marketplace determines the price. It's not the landlords that determine the price. It's the tenants. And the tenants, if they don't like the price, they don't have to rent the space.
Does anyone think that sounds a little bit like a cop-out?
That's how basic economics work.
Okay.
Let's look at the used car market. Why are used cars so expensive now?
I know, it's nuts.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's not just housing.
I'm just asking questions.
Why are menu prices so expensive now?
Because they've got to price in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
The customer determines the price, not the landlord. If the price of cars got to be so expensive, which they are now, and people stopped buying them, what would the manufacturers and the dealers do? They'd cut the price.
They'd find a different way to do it.
If the steaks and the cheeseburgers were so expensive and no one patronized the business, they'd discount the price.
I don't know if I believe that about the food industry. I don't think it is quite the equal equation that you're making it out to be. Because they have to price in the cost of romaine lettuce that's gone up 100% in the last 2 months.
Like the landlord is pricing in the cost of assessments going up 12% over a course of a year.
Okay, but that's not what you were saying. You were saying the price is set by the person that's renting.
Yeah. On everything in our economy, the buyer with the money has the control. Because they don't have to choose to vote with their money in that transaction.
Okay.
The buyer has the control. The marketplace has the control. It's not the landlord. The landlord rents something associated with what the buyer will pay. If the buyer won't pay for it, the price goes down.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? I mean, it's a great topic. It's supply. Now, an argument that you could make, that if I was in your shoes, I would have made, is the jurisdictional red tape that's limited the inventory is what's driving the prices through the roof. Albemarle County, let's just take the county of Albemarle. All of Albemarle County, only 5% of the jurisdiction is utilized for commercial and residential development. A huge county of Albemarle, massive county. Only 5% of that county is designated for commercial and residential development. So because the government that we call Albemarle is limiting roofs, houses, condos, apartments, in this small, tiny area, they're fixing or constraining supply. And by fixing and constraining supply, the collateral damage is driving up prices. That's the argument I would have made if I was in your shoes. That these government elected officials are pro-affordable housing or pro-housing affordability, yet they're constraining the supply that would create affordable housing. It's not the greedy landlords. It's the red tape associated with government closed-minded thinking.
I'm sure that has something to do with it as well.
That is the thing that has to do with it. That's the primary driver.
Okay, if you say so.
That's a fact. If you expand...
You use that word far too freely sometimes.
It's exactly what's happening.
Okay.
You can ask, what happens if you limit the amount of cheeseburgers that are made and people want to eat cheeseburgers?
Are we really going to liken this to cheeseburgers?
What happens if you limit the amount of cars that are made and people want to buy cars?
My response would be someone will find a way to make a lot of money off of it.
That's just what's happening with housing. Government has constrained the supply of housing. And they've constrained the supply of housing and say they're in favor of affordability. Yet they don't allow housing to be made. So how can you be in favor of affordable housing or housing affordability and constrain the amount of housing that can be made?
It's a good question.
That's hypocrisy. That's the essence, or should be the essence, of your argument. Not the landlords setting prices that are too high for the sake of making money.
Okay.
If you 3x the apartments in the city of Charlottesville, or if you 3x the apartments in Albemarle County, guess who loses the leverage? The landlords. And guess who gains the leverage? The tenants. And guess what happens to the price points? Affordability. That's the Monday edition of the show. Little economics, a little small business, a little current events. We thank you for joining us. Anything you want to close with?
No.
We appreciate Skooma Boutique Dispensary for being a part of the show. Ting Fiber Internet for powering the show. Greenberries Coffee, enter.greenberries.com to win coffee for a year. Tomorrow's show is going to be red hot as well with Alex Erpy as we continue this discussion. Take care. Hasta luego.